You all know I've been a huge fan of my Garmin InReach and InReach Mini 2 for years, and that they have literally been on my shoulder attached to me on pretty much every foray into the backcountry in the last couple of years. I recently got my hands on the new and improved Garmin InReach Messenger Plus, which sports a host of new and improved features. But is it still relevant in a world where you can send SOS and even text messages via satellite with your iPhone? I think it is. Let me tell you why. So let's start with the features of this new device, what makes it different, what makes it better. The InReach Messenger Plus is a dedicated satellite communicator with photo and voice messaging. Yes, you can send photos. It retains the interactive SOS feature from previous generations, so you can still message the Garmin Help Center and talk to them back and forth, but with one notable improvement, which we'll get to. It integrates with the Garmin Explorer and Garmin Messenger apps for seamless messaging and navigation. It has a trackback feature, which is both passive and active depending on where you set it. If you have it on passive mode and you get somewhere up in the woods and you're like, oh crap, I don't really know how to get out of here, it'll give you some waypoints every 10 minutes or so from where you've been. But if you set it to active track, it'll give you a direct path of how you came in so you can get right back out. It has location sharing via live tracking even when you don't have cell phone service. That's one thing the iPhone doesn't have. That is what we call peace of mind for your loved ones. And it has an absolutely insane claimed battery life. They claim 120 hours in low power messaging mode with active, that is every 2 minutes messaging and tracking, or up to 600 hours if you're messaging and tracking every 10 minutes. Now it has different power modes. You have to put it in low power mode for that. 250 messages can be sent with a single charge and up to 1 year of battery life when powered off, in case it's the kind of thing you just buy and throw in your glove box or your backpack and you just have it if you need it. Some real life testing. I had it last weekend. I went camping with Duck Fan and Explore Adventure Moto, and I just had it on basically the whole weekend. It was 3 days we were out there. It was a long weekend. Kind of constant messaging, texting, sending pictures with my wife, and it was at about 60% when I turned it off when we got back into cell phone service at the end of the trip. It has a very rugged design. This is impact resistant. It is IPX7 waterproof. Unlike your phone, this thing could take a beating, get bashed around. There's no screen to break. It's water and impact resistant. It also can be used as an emergency charger for your phone. So you just pop open the USB and it will reverse charge off of the lithium-ion battery inside of this unit. That's kind of a neat feature. And you can add search and rescue insurance for $40 a year. That gives you $100,000 in coverage plus an additional $5,000 accidental death and dismemberment. I have that on this device. I have it set up to auto-renew. $40 a year for a lot of peace of mind. Having been with friends who had to pay out of pocket for rescues and medical treatment is worth it to me. Sometimes search and rescue is free, sometimes it isn't. Nice to know that it's covered either way. 40 bucks a month, that I recommend. A big con about this device, or a thing you must know, is that a subscription is required. I'll put a link to those plans in the description for you, but it starts at $15 a month for 50 messages / weather requests. So weather requests cost you 1 message, and 10 photo and voice messages, that's per month. That's enough for most of us weekend warriors. I think I used 30 messages and 7 or 8 picture messages, and that's up and down, by the way, to you and from you over the last weekend. There's also a secret $8 plan that's not on the website, but if you go to cancel, they'll offer it to you. It's called InReach Enabled. That's $8 a month, and that is SOS only, so you can keep this and use it as a PLB. So you can switch to that maybe when you're not using it as actively in the off season, or you can cancel your subscription and come back, but they claim you don't keep all your information, which it's always had my information when I've restarted my subscription, so I don't know what that's about. So I did the ultimate test on this weekend. The idea was I'm gonna go camping with my friends and just try to communicate with my wife and get her perspective on how it worked as a non-tech savvy, non-adventure-y type person. You can send text messages like regular text messages, but it'll have some gobbledygook at the end, like a link and all that. But she took it upon herself to download the Messenger app, and she says, and I quote, "The Messenger app is easy to download and use and is nice because it gives GPS location points on every message so she can know where I'm at any given time." Now there's a link you can click in a regular text message, but it's kind of a nicer kind of interface. She said also other people that she knows that we both know, so her contacts with InReach units showed up, Duck Fan showed up, Grace showed up, and she does not have Grace's InReach number, but because she's connected to her on her phone, it showed up in the Messenger app. So she was relieved to know that if she couldn't get a hold of me, she could still message Duck Fan's InReach because she knew he was with me, even though she didn't have that number. Nice to be able to share pictures. She sent me pictures of the dog. I sent her pictures of Chewy sleeping by the fire. That's just a neat little way to share the experience. I was like, look at the beautiful fall colors. And she says, and I quote, "It was like we were just texting. even though I'm out in the middle of nowhere. That's the perspective from the user who is at home trying to reach you based on this thing. Having used this a little bit, tested it out, let me give you my impressions, my feelings, my honest review of it. So the pros of this thing, they've added a ton of features which are nice. You can go into the Messenger app and see how many messages you have left, so you can avoid going over. You can still pay per message if you go over, but it's nice to be able to see that like really quickly. This thing is incredibly rugged. Like I would throw it out of a moving car and feel pretty good about it. So I like that, particularly when you're comparing it to using your phone as your emergency messenger. Battery life is insane. It's a great backup to that phone. It's far more rugged. So it's nice to have both options, particularly for things like navigation, although there is a significant con to this, and that is no screen. So you need your phone to use most of the features. You can set up routes on your computer and then transfer them to the app on your phone and or the device. Messaging with this, as opposed to the old ones, was much smoother and faster. It's because it uses higher power transmissions now. So messaging is faster, it is more reliable, even in, say, less wide open areas. So that's a big reason to consider upgrading to this, is that it actually messages a lot more successfully and capably. A big feature of this that your phone and that the other InReach doesn't have is that you can send those picture and voice messages to the SOS center. Typing out a bunch of stuff, particularly if you're the one who's hurt, I'm here, I have a broken leg, blah, blah, is difficult. Hitting the voice record button and saying it all, much easier. Sending a picture of a landmark or where you're at or your injury or whatever to the SOS center so they can relay it to search and rescue, that is invaluable. So that is a huge pro to this over the previous versions, is it's just much safer, much easier to communicate a lot of information to the SOS center, should you need it. Hopefully you never do. Cons for this sweet baby, there are a few. It's nearly impossible to use without the app. My original DeLorme InReach had at least a directional keypad where I could semi-reliably send text messages from the device. This, just like the InReach Mini, you're limited to one letter at a time from the device itself, and or you just hit the SOS button. If your phone is broken or dead, although you can charge it off of this, which is nice, so if you have power here, your phone will have power, it is really hard to use a lot of features of the device. It's expensive. You have to have a subscription. That's a big con for a lot of people, though it has gotten a lot more reasonable, and you get a lot more messages for your money now, and you can stop and start it, which is nice. I also don't like the design. It looks cool. Red and black are my favorite colors, but this does not look like the thing that's gonna save my life in the way that the giant orange InReach Mini 2 did. That was like a block of attention-grabbing life-savingness with a very clearly labeled SOS button. This one, that is a lot harder to see than the old one, and I don't like it. This is clearly designed to kind of go in your pocket and be used by you, which is great. That's super convenient, but it doesn't have the advantage of, if I'm with somebody and I haven't told them where it is, being easy to find and know how to use without having seen it before. So what about this versus the satellite iPhone messaging? That's a great question, and probably the number one comment I get whenever I recommend one of these. Well, I was out with Explore Adventure Moto, Travis, and he had his iPhone, and his iPhone has satellite messaging. So we literally tested them side by side on this trip last weekend. He can text for free. It was working great. On the surface, at least for the level of just communicating back and forth with the real world, they're equal, or the iPhone is better because it's already in your pocket and you need a phone to use this anyway. But there are some disadvantages to the iPhone, and I think Garmin will continue to try to stay ahead of that curve. And also, if you have an Android phone like me, you don't even get the advantages of the iPhone. But the iPhone, one thing is you have to kind of align it with the satellite. So you have to, okay, it's here. So you can't just, like this, I just threw on the hood of my rig and left it there all weekend and was just texting from wherever I was in camp. You know, Trav's got to walk around until he gets connected to the satellite. The iPhone is so much less rugged, and if you break it, you don't have a backup SOS option. So I like this device for the types of adventures that we have. iPhone messaging is free now, but that's because it's essentially a long beta test. Eventually there will be a fee for that. I would imagine SOS will stay free. It would be kind of unethical if it wasn't, I feel like. But the messaging thing, I think eventually they will charge for, so that'll eliminate that advantage. You can send pictures and voice messages with this. The battery life on this is insane, and this is smaller and easier to carry. Set it and forget it, leave it in your glove box, whatever. So there are some advantages to this, even with that iPhone satellite messenger, but if you just want to be able to send messages and know you have an SOS backup, maybe the iPhone's enough for you. Only you can decide. So the ultimate question, particularly for people like me who own the InReach Mini 2, is it worth the upgrade? At the end of the day, your current InReach Mini will still send messages and work as an emergency SOS button if that's all that you're after. So if you just want a little peace of mind and you want to just stick with the device you have, that's great. But if you want the fastest and most reliable device, it might be worth upgrading. If you want to send pictures and text and have the most streamlined texting-like experience, then it might be worth upgrading. The Messenger Plus here is better than the old InReach in every way. It's the safest and most convenient satellite messenger on the market. Your safety is exponentially increased by the ability to send voice and picture messages to the SOS center. If you are looking for maybe a gift to suggest to somebody who's giving you a gift this holiday season, this is a great one, and really, especially if you have a loved one in particular, a spouse or whatever, who worries about you out in the backcountry, really they're buying themselves a present. So I think there are some significant advantages to this unit. I think it's worth considering an upgrade, but I would not say it is an essential must upgrade. Now, if you want to learn more about the InReach Messenger Plus, all the info about this device can be found on the product page on motocampnerd.com, which I have linked in the description for you. And while you're there, take a few minutes to peruse the world's most carefully curated selection of motorcycle camping gear, now including riding gear, luggage, and everything else you need to have the most successful motorcycle adventure, because Moto Camp Nerd has everything you need to pack small and camp easy.